My name's Duncan Bridgstock. I've got a mental health issue. I've got OCD and I'm a hoarder. And during lockdown, I joined the Together 2012 craft group, Make a Natter, and Still Life, where I made collages, which are featured in this exhibition, and they've gradually progressed over about a year and a half. I had done collages before when I had a breakdown and was hospitalized in about 2005, and slowly I learned how to do them, and this progressed to the current collages which you're looking at. And I started using different materials and approaching them differently. And in this, I've been influenced by Kurt Schwitters, who I call the daddy of collage. If you don't know him, it's worth looking up his stuff, because even though he died in the late 40s, but a lot of his stuff still looks fresh and interesting today. And there was an exhibition a few years back at Tate Britain of his stuff, although there was too much written stuff I found, but the collages are great. Somebody else that influenced me was the abstract expressionists, particularly Robert Motherwell, and some of the later collages, the black and white ones, have been influenced by that, although they're not really abstract expressionist. But that was a new departure for me, and that was quite stimulating, and that sort of takes you up to date with where I am, what I'm doing at the moment. When I started making collages, I started in the 1980s, although I didn't produce a whole lot, but I was busy working at the time, and it was more like a hobby, and I liked packaging that I was throwing away, and I used that. I didn't make a huge number of collages, and then when I had a big breakdown, I started making collages in hospital again, and I wasn't getting any help as a psychiatric outpatient, and they kept saying, "You're all right," and I kept saying, "I'm not all right," and I got help from Mind, who are wonderful, and they provided me with counselling, and I got a counsellor who avoided playing what I call psycho tennis. So she let me know that she was on my side by talking about Miles Davis's Kind of Blue, which, being a jazz fan, I knew about, and that created an empathy between us and a kind of channel for communication, which helped enormously. And I made a collage about Miles Davis, based on Miles Davis's music of Kind of Blue. But then I stopped making collages really for a long time, and it was only when lockdown came along, and I'd been interested in joining the Together poetry group, but I did some voluntary work, which then stopped. So I started going to the poetry group, and they suggested going to the Make and Natter, where I started doing collages again. And then I find some new interest and stimulation in making them, and enjoyment, and a progression of what I'd done before, and finding some new stuff to say, like using the backs of food packaging, where a lot of the stuff that you usually look at, I thought, well, that's no good, I can't use that. And then I started finding a way to make that work, and there are some of those collages in the exhibition. The L shapes were really looking at a lot of art on YouTube, and the abstract expressionists in particular. And I was aware that a lot of the stuff I was looking at, the artists had their own vocabulary of shapes, and I thought I should develop my own. I didn't know which really shapes to use, so I started using owls, and that developed into different positionings and color combinations, and eventually more symmetrically designed collages. which I thought were an improvement on the early ones. The early ones tended to be quite chunky. And it develops. You find that you can do more. You think, well, let's try messing around with that, see what happens. And you can arrive at different results. It's been something to look forward to, doing the Zoom meetings with Together, and a way of connecting with people and having an immediate response that people say if they like something you've done, which is very rewarding and satisfying. And it encourages you to do more. Thank you to Together. And also thank you to my mum, who's encouraged me and told me to put the collages in binders so they don't get all bashed up in my flat.